Okay, welcome to the 8th teen webinar for this year. We're going to focus on May's topics, all of which relate to gratitude. The standard topic is gratitude, Modim Anachnu Lach. The Musar topic is gratitude, Hakarat Hatov. And the mixtape topic is gratitude, radical amazement. Okay. Before we get into the discussion, I need to mention a few things. First of all, Chai Mitzvah plants trees in Israel for the teen program participants. I sent out an email asking whether you'd like trees planted for each student, for the teacher, for someone your group would like to honor. If you haven't yet answered that email, please do so ASAP, as JNF needs time to print the certificates and send them out. This brings us to another great thing. You can have a speaker come to your school to talk about Israel and or the environment at no charge. JNF will be happy to send someone from their education department. If you're interested in this, just let me know by email and I'll put you in contact with a local JNF education person. I know a couple of people have taken advantage of this and it's been really good. One more thing. If you have students going to Israel with a Chai Mitzvah summer stipend, we send out a survey and would like to have as many students fill it out as possible, because we're hoping their responses will inspire our donors to provide the stipend again next year. We sent the survey directly to the students, and about half filled it out. Then we sent it to you, and you encouraged them to fill it out. And as a result, we had another 11 students do it. Thank you. As one last effort, we want to send the survey to the parents and ask them to encourage the students to fill it out. It's only 3 questions. I'll send the survey to you, and if you can, please forward it to the parents. Another important thing, if you're interested in a new Aseret curriculum, please send me an email. And also a reminder, if you're doing the mixtape curriculum and you want Matt Barr to edit your video, it's time to start collecting materials to send. If you have any questions about that, email me as well. Now I'm going to remind you to share interesting things your students are doing or other relevant items in our Facebook group or on Instagram. And now we are ready to look at the themes. Except for that, it just disappeared. Okay. We'll do it this way. Okay. And so, if you don't mind, Michael, if you could read the first point on the slide about the themes, that'd be really helpful.
Psychological studies have shown that feeling and expressing gratitude are important components of a happy life. Elements in Jewish tradition can help us to be aware of our blessings and to express gratitude.
So expressing gratitude doesn't mean ignoring that there's pain and hardship in the world. It means making a daily effort to see that along with difficulty, there's also good in life worth celebrating. That's a theme from our standard materials. Now, if you could read from our Musar materials.
One of the Musar terms for gratitude is Hakarat Hatov, literally noticing, recognizing the good.
So when we're sensitive enough to notice that a good deed has been done on our behalf, we will ideally store that memory, come to understand that we're part of a greater web of care and concern, and in response, pay the favor forward, either directly to the bestower of the kindness or to others in their honor. In this way, memory, a sense of gratitude, and loving kindness become interconnected midot. And then the last theme here is from the mixtape curriculum. According to Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, Michael Lee,
wonder is the chief characteristic of the religious man's attitude toward history and nature. It's a religious, spiritual feeling that from which art and science also arise.
Right, so wonder is a feeling worth cultivating. And all of these ideas relate to gratitude in different ways, making us happier and more balanced, in a spiritual connection to the universe, and in being part of the greater good. So let's look at the first text that you see here, where the rabbis express the idea that to be grateful takes practice and effort. And when we practice gratitude, we're able to see clearly how much good there is in our lives. This is from the standard curriculum. By consciously practicing gratitude, we actually become grateful and we're able to find positives in life. And this practice provides us with a tool to help us balance our focus between the things we lack and the things we have. The text points out how blessings help us to be grateful. There's an interesting contradiction here. So read the text with your students up to the part where they see the contradiction, and then see if they can solve the dilemma before you read the rest of the text. So if you could, Michael, read it up to the blue.
Okay. Whose world is it? Rabbi Judah said in the name of Samuel, to enjoy anything of this world without a benediction is like making personal use of things consecrated to heaven, since it says, the earth is the eternal's and the fullness thereof. Psalms 24:1. Rabbi Levi contrasted the two texts. It is written, the earth is the eternal's and the fullness thereof. And it is also written, the heavens are the heavens of the eternal, but the earth hath God given to the children of men. Psalms 115 to 116.
So on one side, we're saying the earth belongs to the eternal. And on the other side, we're saying it belongs to people. So that's the contradiction. But Rabbi Levi says that there is no contradiction. He says, in the one case, it's before a blessing has been said, and the other case, after. So let's think about how this relates to our lives. There are two things that I think of here, and Michael Lee, I'd love to hear what you think too. The first thing I think of is that in the realm of gratitude, blessings kind of help us to build our gratitude muscles, which in turn help us to improve our attitudes, and even through this, it's been proven through studies, our health. On a related note, the other thing I was thinking is having to put out some effort in order to earn something is also very healthy. That's why our rabbis taught it's forbidden to enjoy anything of this world without a blessing. And if anyone enjoys anything of this world without a blessing, it's not really theirs. And I kind of relate this, and I'd love your opinion. Our young people nowadays win awards, not even when they achieve something, just because they're alive. And they're always having their self-esteem stoked. Yet a lot of them feel unworthy and insecure. And I think that's because if you don't work hard and fail sometimes, there's no opportunity to build real self-esteem. It might seem loosely related, but I think it's another underlying meaning of the text. What do you think?
I totally agree with you with having children in their teenage years. By recognizing and awarding children for just participating, even if they didn't do anything, does not teach them. And it's been proven that failure teaches. And by failing at something, you figure out what you need to do to achieve your goal. So by just giving awards for participation does not teach anything. And I think you really need to be rewarded for your effort, hard work, and if you actually achieve the goal you set out for.
I think that's important. And I would be really interested to hear how this works when you do it in your classroom. And I think it's important, even though it's loosely related, I think it's a very important thing for us today. So I think that's an important text. And thanks. And I'm going to go to the next one, which is now from our Musar curriculum. We have two well-known biblical passages that are going to lead us to a larger conversation about Hakarat HaTov. The first one is from Genesis. Here's some background. Joseph is falsely imprisoned in Egypt, but offers his skill in dream interpretation to two fellow prisoners, Pharaoh's former cupbearer and the chief baker. So, Michael Lee, if you could read.
Next one.
Yeah.
Then the chief cupbearer told his dream to Joseph. Joseph said to him, in 3 days, Pharaoh will pardon you and restore you to your post. But think of me when all is well with you again, and do me the kindness of mentioning me to Pharaoh, so as to free me from this place. On the 3rd day, his birthday, Pharaoh made a banquet for all of his officials. He restored the chief cupbearer to his cupbearing, and he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But the chief baker he impaled, just as Joseph had interpreted it to them. Yet the chief cupbearer did not think of Joseph. He forgot him.
Right. So when I first saw this in our Musar materials, my first thought was, why focus on Joseph? But then I realized it's a timeless theme, and it can lead to a discussion of times that students have been asked to do a good deed for someone, or when they've asked someone to help them out. So one good question we can start the discussion: was Joseph's request of the cupbearer reasonable? What do you think, Michael Lee?
I'm not sure.
I mean, it's kind of your own opinion. When I first thought it over, I thought, what's the big deal? So mention Joseph to Pharaoh. But then I thought, speaking to Pharaoh is like a big deal. Like, you don't just speak to Pharaoh, especially if you're the cupbearer. And Joseph didn't say before he interpreted this dream, like, you know what, I'll interpret your dream if you mention me to Pharaoh. So I don't think it was unreasonable in that if you're grateful to someone, you can ask them to do something for you. But I do think it was kind of a big deal. If we look at all the characters in the story, we kind of try to empathize with them. We can think, why did the cupbearer forget Joseph? And also, I think there's a difference between forgetting and not doing it because you're scared of Pharaoh. So that's something to talk about.
Right. I agree with you. I think maybe he didn't even think about it. He could have forgotten. Or he might have thought it was something that I can't do.
Right. And so forgotten it for that reason. That makes sense. So if you'd been the cupbearer, if you'd been in his place, what do you think you would have done? Would you have forgotten Joseph's request?
It's hard to say. It would depend on if I was able to talk to Pharaoh. And
yeah.
And like you said, he is a character you think of that he's so big. How do I ask him? I just became free and got my post back or my job back. Would I jeopardize myself?
Right. I think I would not have forgotten his request, but it would have driven me crazy that I couldn't do it or was too scared to do it. I don't know if I would have had the courage to actually do it. So that's something to kind of empathize and look at the characters. It's not always cut and dried. And how do you think Joseph felt about his kindness not being rewarded?
Well, if he was living a life of gratitude, he probably looked at the positive side of maybe he forgot, or maybe he was scared to talk to Pharaoh. And he probably didn't get angry if he was living a gratuitous life.
Even though he was in a dungeon.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking also, so it's a good discussion to have with your students. How do you think Joseph felt having to ask to be remembered? I mean, there's a lot that goes into this. And I guess it's a good opportunity for students to bring up when they've been in a situation that's similar to this and to analyze it differently and talk about how they feel. Another facet of this text to think about is, to who in our own lives do we owe a debt of gratitude, or to who do the students owe a debt of gratitude? And how have they or might they express it? So, and one thing I'm thinking of in this situation also is, what's the difference between gratitude and a debt of gratitude? Want to weigh in?
Oh, sure. I think there is a difference. I think when you're talking about gratitude in itself, it's thinking of the day-to-day things you're thankful for. And it could be, I'm thankful that the sun is shining today. I'm thankful that I got a letter in the mail or a card. I'm thankful that when I went to the grocery store, they had my favorite
whatever
that I wanted. I think a debt of gratitude is very different in terms of, it could be a parent, it could be a teacher, that somebody that set you on the right path. And yes, we're all grateful for our parents or our families, but I think it's the little things that, especially when you become older, that you look back on that they shared with you. And I owe a debt of gratitude to my parents who set me on the right path. And I will always be indebted to my parents. And it's not like money where you're in debt money. I'm in debt to them because of the person who I am today.
Like, it's a long-term gratitude. Yes. It's not a thanks for picking up this package for me and dropping it off. It's more like a, right. And we're going to touch on that a little later in the webinar also, because it's something that is interesting. And here comes another really interesting thing, talking about gratitude or a debt of gratitude. This is another text from the Musar curriculum. It's from Exodus. And these passages, the first two of the plagues, are brought upon Egypt. And if you could read, that'd be helpful.
And the Eternal said to Moses, say to Aaron, take your rod and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over their rivers, over their streams, and over their pools, and over their ponds of water, that they may become blood. And the Eternal said to Moses, say to Aaron, stretch forth your hand with your rod over the rivers, over the canals, and over the pools, and cause the frogs to come up upon the land of Egypt. And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt.
So this is really interesting. There are only two plagues brought upon the Egyptians by Aaron instead of Moses. And these two plagues are, that we just read, the blood and the frogs. And there's a reason for this, which you may already know, but which your students might not yet know. So let's look back at the themes for this lesson. When we're sensitive enough to notice that a good deed has been done in our behalf, we'll ideally store that memory, come to understand that we're part of a greater web of care and concern, and in response, pay the favor forward, either directly to the bestower of the kindness or to others in their honor. So let's look at these plagues. They both happened to what? Through what?
Through inanimate objects.
Right. And the inanimate object happened to be the water.
The water.
So here's a hint. Since it can happen, since you can also owe a debt of gratitude to inanimate objects, it's pretty easy to figure out. According to Rashi, as well as Midrash Exodus Rabbah 9:10, the plagues of the blood and the frogs were brought through Aaron because Moses owed his life to the water from when he was a baby in a basket. Moses owed a debt of gratitude, which is like a long term, like we were talking about, not just like a little one, to the river for saving him as an infant, and therefore he could not personally, nor would God allow him to wreak the two plagues of blood and frogs on it. So if you want to expand this out with your students, you might ask, for what inanimate objects in your own life do you have, or might you cultivate a Hakarat HaTov practice? And what might this practice be? So for example, when you're eating, a blessing for food, or you could look at Berchot HaNehanin, the blessings of appreciation, for all kinds of things like good smells and rainbows and intelligence. An interesting thing, the opposite of gratitude, ingratitude, is called Kafoi HaTov, which literally means covering over the good. Fun fact, the word for head covering, kippah, is grammatically related to the word kafoi. Sometimes a sense of entitlement or a sense of bitterness can lead to Kafoi HaTov. We've done a lot of talk about, oh, hello, Ellen, hold on. We have done a lot of talk about entitlement with, hi, Ellen, you're muted. Should I unmute you?
We had a family crisis, so that's why I'm late to the...
I'm so sorry. Is everything okay?
Well, it's been ongoing, so I'm just taking a few minutes to check in here and see what you're doing. So keep going. Thank you.
Okay.
Doing okay.
I didn't quite see when you came in, but we were talking about why Aaron had to bring the plagues on the rivers. And I don't know where you came in, but...
Just now. Yeah, just now.
Okay, so the reason why Aaron did it instead of Moses was that Moses was saved by the river. And you can owe gratitude to an inanimate object as well. So God wouldn't let Moses bring plagues on the river. He made sure that Aaron did that. And then we were just talking about if there are inanimate objects that we might feel gratitude towards. By the way, are you in your car?
Yeah, I'm in my car.
So you checked in. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
So if you have an inanimate object you're thinking about to which you owe gratitude, this is the time to chime in.
Well, I know a lot of people people owe a lot to their phones for connecting them, and recently for me, I owe having a telephone helps through this emergency family crisis situation. So I don't worship my phone, but I have some gratitude that we have these great little machines that help us communicate.
Yeah, I'm really glad you were able to join, and I am grateful to your phone as well.
Yeah, like right now.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. Then we were talking about Kafoi HaTov, which is the opposite. It's covering over the good or not recognizing it. And we're talking about how a sense of entitlement or bitterness can lead to this. And even here, we're urged to give thanks regardless of circumstances. And that's exactly what you're doing. It's so nice of you. You're grateful for your phone. You're joining us in the midst of a crisis. And it's been found that people who do this actually are healthier and more optimistic and lead better lives. So I'm really excited that you're here. And when I did this with adults in my own Chai Mitzvah group, there was a woman whose husband was undergoing chemo at the time. He's okay now. I'm happy to say it's been like 4 years. He's okay. But at the time, we made a gratitude journal. And I never forgot, she wrote how grateful she was to be able to be in the sunshine sometimes because she spent so much time indoors in the hospital with him. And I think that if a person can find gratitude in the middle of difficult circumstances, it's amazing. And it's to be respected and admired, but it's also actually good for them, which is, I found to be very interesting. So I'm kind of excited because the next thing we're going to do is from the mixtape curriculum, and it's very cool. We start out with Psalm 95, but there's a rapper named E Prime. It's like Ephraim with rhyme in the name. And he comments on Psalm 95, and he talks about prayer and Shabbat and ways to connect to gratitude and to appreciate the world. So first, let's look at Psalm 95, and let's think about what it says in terms of how to be grateful. And then let's see how he translates it. Because I think this can be, there are all different levels of teens doing this. I know you have younger kids, Ellen. So let's look at this, and then let's look at what he does, and we can see how that works for us. Michael Lee has been reading for me because I, had pneumonia, and I'm just trying to save my voice.
I can't believe you're here. I'm so glad you're better.
Thanks. I am grateful every day that I'm a little better.
Yeah, you must be best grateful.
I am. Okay, Michael Lee.
Okay, come, let us sing joyously to the Lord. Raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For the Lord is a great God, the great sovereign of all divine beings. In God's hand are the depths of the earth, the peaks of the mountains are God's. God is the sea, God made it, and the land, which God's hands fashioned.
So this is, I think King David probably wrote it. It's a psalm. And I'm sure that at the time he wrote it and made his tune to it, it was really great. And I'm sure if I wanted to say something about myself being grateful and happy and saying, wow, I might express it differently. So this is interpreted for the kids by this guy, Ephraim. You can see the words that he wrote. I'm going to play it so that we can hear it. And the thing that's also interesting is how he talks about prayer and Shabbat and appreciation in a totally different way, yet it's similar. So let's take a look at this. Here we go.
Peace, this is E Prime from Darshan. Welcome to the Beat Midrash. This soul is a bird and your voice is the wind. With wings made of words, we intend to ascend to the depths of the heights. Let there be light, set the breath to the flesh, drop bones come to life. So many seek, so many strive for a view from the peak. Just open your eyes and allow yourself to be moved by the tide like the moon in the sky. So the sun scream, I am alive. So that verse came from a song based on Psalm 92, which is the first psalm that we sing in the Seder of Kabbalat Shabbat. Now, a lot of the songs in Kabbalat Shabbat, and this psalm in particular, have a major focus of noticing what's around you and being sensitive to how what's around you impacts what's inside of you. Meaning, how does nature, how do other people, how does the cosmos actually affect your state of consciousness and how you connect to the world? So the first bar in the verse, the soul is a bird and your voice is the wind, provides an image of light as an ideal state to be in the midst of prayer. On some level, we turn to prayer and we engage the practice of prayer to elevate us, to lift us off of the ground, so to speak, a little bit. And if that part of ourself that gets elevated through prayer is the soul, then the thing that actually uplifts that part of us is our voice. We're trying to focus our awareness to something beyond. And our voice and the words of the prayers and the poetry are the vehicles that take us there. So if you stop to think about it for 1 second, and like the beginning of the verse says, the words of prayer are there to help focus our attention on this aspect of reality, which is that it's all miraculous. So allow yourself to be moved by the tide. Not all the time, but in a specific time, in prayer, on Shabbos, when you meditate, when you're playing music, certain experiences you have. Allow yourself the gift, give yourself the gift of just being blown away at life once every so often. If you do it all the time, you're never going to be able to do your homework. You're never going to be able to put one foot in front of the other. You'll just, oh my God, it's too much. So I'm not saying to do that all the time, but to set aside sometimes once a week, once a day, whenever it is, tune in and allow yourself to be moved by the tide. And then like the moon in the sky, you'll salute the sun and scream, I am alive, because it just feels that good. Because it recognizes that it doesn't have any light of its own, and it just reflects the light of the sun. And when you get out of your own way and allow yourself to be moved by the tide and the rhythm and the whole fabric and tapestry of life, then what comes out? Praise. And that brings us back to the beginning of the verse, prayer. We're just blown away and we want to sing about it. We want to write poetry about it. We want to express ourselves and just scream, I am alive, because that's actually the most amazing thing. And that is what Kabbalat Shabbat is all about. That's the consciousness that the Psalms and much of Jewish poetry are trying to bring us to. It's just an awareness of the miraculous nature of life itself.
So that is a good inspiration, a good start for the students doing their own interpretation of this of themselves, and so that's a nice thing. Yeah, I think you have to be in a certain frame of mind in order to do this. I think the students will be most likely to be inspired by this if they know that they're going to do their own screaming I'm alive, and they're going to write their own. It can be art, it can be their own style. But I think that if they know they're doing that, it's helpful. And some of the interesting questions you can think about are, like, ask the students, does prayer ever amaze you like it does Ephraim or King David? What sparks your wonder? Because they can take what sparks their wonder and make their own rap out of it. And then an interesting one, and I'd love to hear what both of you think about this. Do you consider gratitude and amazement to be religious sentiments? And why or why not?
So, can you say that again?
Yeah, wonder and amazement. Do you think of it as a religious sentiment?
I can't help but I keep thinking about, I don't know if it's Shintoism or some Japanese other religion or practice, how they look at nature and all types of nature and mountains, and they're like, not like they pray to them or anything, but they show gratitude for all those things all the time, and that's the basis of that religion. I can't remember if it's Shintoism or another Japanese religion, but I kept thinking about that. And you know, you were talking about gratitude and small things and such, and like one thing I'm always grateful for every time I take a shower, because I've been to a lot of places where there are no showers or hot water, and I always I feel so much gratitude for that. I remind myself of that every night. But in terms of religion, it depends on what you think religion is, I guess.
I think that's a great answer. I know. I mean, like we have Barakot Nehanin. We have prayers that we can say for those moments, like thunder and when you meet someone smart and a good smell. So I think and I will send out, if you like, a link to that so you can use it with your kids. In fact, especially because your kids on the younger end, I have a nice thing I'll send you.
Yeah, except we only have one more session.
There you go. You can use it at the one more session.
We'll see, yeah.
Anyway, so
it's been a hard time.
Yeah, I know it's been a rough year, but
With the kids,
yeah. Anyway, so I think it can be. I think, like you said, a very good answer. Depends what you think religion is. What do you think, Michael Lee?
I think I'm thinking back to some of our holidays, like Sukkot, where it's harvest time, and if we didn't have some of the wonders of the world, the sun and the rain, and those type of things, we wouldn't be able to have our harvest because things wouldn't grow, and So I think of that part as religious in it, but it's an amazing thing to be grateful for. The rain and the sun and the moon and the stars, and you need to have all of those things.
Yeah,
for our life.
You're right. And to be grateful for it can be a religious experience. I think it's definitely a spiritual experience. And I think it would be interesting to see what the kids think about. What do they consider religious as opposed to spiritual? So that could be an interesting thing. Now we're going to get to some things you can actually do to bring this subject to life with your students. So the first one is it's a nice activity. It's called the Everyday Attitude of Gratitude poster or post. And I'm going to ask Michael Lee to read again just because, my voice is feeling good, but you're really helpful.
Right. For this, you're going to need a poster board, markers, and stickers. What to do? Use the markers to write a headline on your poster. You might also draw a frame around the edges if you like. Every evening, think about the day that has passed. What are you thankful for? Write the date and express your gratitude in words, pictures, or photos. Hang your Attitude of Gratitude poster in a prominent location where you can add to it easily. Feel grateful and pay it forward. For the post, as a class, post something for which you are grateful each day at High Mitzvah.
Right. And you could also do a class Attitude of Gratitude poster and fill it out when everyone's there. Have each kid write something that they are grateful for. It's a nice way to kind of uplift you at the beginning of class. Now here is a fun game. It's called Web of Gratitude. And this exercise shows how appreciating other people connects us to each other. Michael Lee.
All you'll need is a ball of yarn. So how you play is you sit on the floor in a circle with everyone facing inward toward the center of the circle. Holding firmly to the end of the string, toss the ball of string to someone in the circle who has a personality trait or has done an act for which you are grateful. The person receiving the string tosses the ball of string to someone else in the circle who has a personality trait or has done an act for which they are grateful. Then holding firmly onto the string, he or she tosses the ball onto another person. The string should be held tightly and above the ground at all times. Continue until everyone has received the string.
So it's nice. So everyone gets a compliment. and everyone gets thrown the ball, and you see how everything is connected. And we think about paying it forward also. Then we can look at some practices, which is part of Musar. So the first one is pay it forward. It's a powerful way to grow your ability to feel gratitude. You can keep a journal, and before you go to sleep at night, think about the day that's passed and who or what has enriched you in some way. Jot down the things as well as the names of those people to whom you owe gratitude. Friends, teachers, family members, salespeople, custodians, anybody. And the next day, be sure to thank at least one of the people on your list. And Michael Lee will tell us some various ways of expressing your gratitude.
There's various ways of expressing your gratitude: a verbal thank you, a handwritten note, email, Facebook post, a small gift, an offer to help them in some way, a donation in their honor, or anything else you can think of. Share your experiences with the class at the next session.
Thanks. And then there are two more nice practices on this slide that I'd love you to read.
Okay. Flavors of Gratefulness. It's an app. Is the prayer that is traditionally said each morning when we first open our eyes, saying thank you that our souls have been returned to us, expressing gratitude for the new day, with Rabbi Shefa Gold's Flavor of Gratefulness app, available from the App Store. You can wake up each day to a new melody to help you see and recognize God's face in the details of the upcoming day.
And then another fun activity for the class.
What a grateful party. Plan a class party that's all about thanks. Make a playlist of songs with thank you in the title. Serve foods for which most people are especially grateful, chocolate, and say a blessing of thanks before you eat. Find a reason to be grateful to each person at the party and thank them.
That could be a nice uplifting party. And then here's some more practices, which are fun. The first one is the complaint fast, which is not about speed. It is not about speed, it's about not eating. So because gratitude is such a central principle in Judaism, the tradition deems those who complain incessantly to actually be sinners. What do you tend to complain about? What would it take to restrain from complaining and focus on the positive? Well, the complaint fast, which is called a Tanis Kretchen in Yiddish, is an actual thing. And Michael Lee will read to us how to practice it.
Okay, complaint fast. Stop complaining for 24 hours or more. If you accidentally complain, you must donate money to tzedakah or balance out the complaint with a comment, call, or letter of praise about someone or something else.
Okay, and then another nice practice here is this posting prayers. So if you could read that.
The Jewish tradition is rich in blessings that express gratitude. Place Thanksgiving gratitude prayers in appropriate locations.
So you see here, there's, this is from the Musar curriculum, and it's a page you can print out, and I can send the PDF in the follow-up email. So you cut out these Thanksgiving or gratitude prayers, and you post them in appropriate locations around your house. And you can also add prayers of your own for otherwise unacknowledged rituals, such as exercise, speaking with a friend, finishing a homework assignment, anything, in order to imbue them with a greater sense of holiness and gratitude. So you probably can't see it too clearly here. In the kitchen, you would have a prayer, "Blessed are you, sovereign of the universe, by whose word all things came to be." That's Borei Minei Mizonot, basically. On the front or the back door, a prayer for when you go out. Lead us in peace and direct our steps in peace. Cause us to reach our destination in life, joy, and peace. By the bedside, there are two that are appropriate to put there. One's for waking up. It's Modeh Ani. Thank you, eternal sovereign, for you have mercifully restored my soul within me. Your faithfulness is great. And for going to sleep, may it be your will, Adonai, my God, and God of my ancestors, to lie me down in peace and then to raise me up in peace. There's even one for the bathroom. Blessed are you, O God, sovereign of the universe, who formed humans with wisdom. And then there's a space where students can create their own, and you can print out as many of these as you like, and the students can fill them out and take them home and put them where they want to. And then the topic of gratitude is an excellent inspiration for social action. And here are some suggestions to get you started, though you might have stuff going on already. And I'm going to ask Michael Lee to read again.
Thanksgiving. Send a donation to an organization that does work with something for which you are grateful. For instance, if you are grateful for clean, running water, you may wish to send a donation to Charity Water, a nonprofit organization that brings clean, safe drinking water to people in developing countries. If you're grateful for your eyeglasses, you may wish to donate your old glasses to New Eyes for the Needy, an organization that was founded in 1932 to improve the vision of the poor and provide glasses to those in need. The animals will be grateful. Help homeless animals. Volunteer your time at a local shelter, playing with or walking the dogs. Donate food for the animals or make toys that they will like. Show appreciation. A Package from Home is an organization that sends care packages to Israeli soldiers. These care packages are not only a warm reminder of love and esteem, but are also items they truly need. For more information, go to apackagefromhome.org. Socialbright.org, a wonderful resource to find amazing social action opportunities. You can make a difference locally and globally in your WOW area of interest.
Right. So thank you so much. And so, Ellen, I know you missed the beginning, but I'm so glad you joined us. And, I'll be sending out a follow-up email with the earlier text and the other stuff. And Michael Lee, I am extremely grateful to you for reading and for saving my voice. And maybe it would be nice to end our webinar by each saying something we're grateful for, because I feel very grateful, A, that I can breathe after having such a serious pneumonia, and B, that we can share these great ideas. And I'm really, really happy that you guys joined. Okay, and I'm going to put you on the spot. What are you grateful for?
Well, let's see. I am grateful that I'm going to go have lunch with my husband today, which we don't do often. And I am grateful that my daughter is coming home tomorrow from a semester abroad.
That's awesome.
Nice. Well, with this crisis that I've gone through recently, I'm grateful. I actually just came out of a Jewish Family and Children's Services with a caregiver group. I'm grateful for the people that have been very supportive in the caregiving group. And I'm also grateful that for the first time, my religious school class, I told them the story of what happened to me this week, but I haven't even told you. And they listened, and they were so quiet and so compassionate that I couldn't believe it. And I was like, I saw them in such a different way. And I told the director of the school, I said, I can't say this. I feel very grateful that these kids who I thought really weren't getting it actually got something. So those are two things.
Well, that's the thing about teaching teens, especially younger ones. They don't always let you know when they get it. And another thing you said really pointed out something I believe a lot, which is that gratitude has a lot to do with people's souls touching each other, And so I'm really glad that you could bring that up, and I'm really glad that you both joined and made this a great conversation. So thank you.
And I'm grateful that you got out of the hospital. Okay.
I am too.
Sorry, I had to intervene with that.
Yeah, thanks. No, I can't believe how much better I feel each day. So thanks.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Do you have, what? I don't have a copy of this gratitude one. Can you send me that one? I know I've got the June one copy, but I don't have this one.
Are you doing which
topic?
Which of the texts are you doing? Musar or standard or
no? Where we're doing
the mixtape, the Matt Bar?
Yeah, the mixtape one.
No problem. I'll send it to you.
I don't have that one, so I could, when I go home, I could print it out. I mean, I don't know how much I can do with these things. It's the end of the year, but just it's good for my own knowledge and to have everything, together.
Sure, no problem. I will do that, and to everyone else, I'll send a follow-up email. And again, thanks so much for joining. Really, thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'm sorry it was late, but I guess a lot of people couldn't join, evidently.
Better late than never.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, that sounds good, and I appreciate it very much.
Yes, thanks again. Thanks so much.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.